Okay, so that concludes our one-to-one. So we're going to move to the panel discussion now, where we're going to go through some of the pre-submitted questions that people have sent in as part of registration. And we'll also go through any other questions that people have submitted throughout our time today. So we'll get everybody around the table. So we'll start with the pre-submitted questions that we've had a fair few through, so we'll get through them as best we can. So we've got quite a specific question here. Lisa, I hope that you might be able to give some insight. Somebody's asking about pathways into user-centered design, but specifically how to get actually started, because a lot of the roles that people apply for, they often ask for at least a year's experience. So even to get in as a junior, it can be quite tricky if you're not really given an opportunity to do so without the experience. So do you have any advice for somebody in that situation?
It is a tricky one. I think what's interesting about some of the discussions coming out today is I think we all understand the concept of transferable skills, but I think what's clear is there is also transferable experience, and I think we need to recognize that there are, there's lots of experience that people have that applies to, the industry that we work in, but it might not be a like for like or an exact replica of what a job description might look for. And I think it's about finding those experiences and adapting them and sort of letting the job market know that you have those experiences and those transferable skills that will apply and can bring value. And I also think that reaching out to people in the industry, whether that's getting a mentor or like Women in Tech and networking. There's lots of UCD meetups now. Opencast have a content specific meetup as well. LinkedIn and getting help from people who are in the industry. We all seem to have had very different journeys in, and none of them you would call particularly textbook, but we can all kind of help people who maybe need that support and understanding where their experiences can bring value.
Brilliant, thank you. So the next one, Olivia, I think it might be good for you to take this one. Have you ever had a situation where you have what feels like too many career options and you weren't actually sure which path to take? How you sort of handled that?
Yeah, definitely, especially that the course I've taken offered 4 different paths, and when you just start and you're new to most of them, because I was into chemistry, but then I was offered 3 other opportunities, and all of them seemed appealing. But then I guess you just have to try and see which one you're drawn to the most. I had 2 years to decide, thanks to how the course was structured, because after 2 years of general studies in 4 of the fields, you chose to specialize in one. So I guess it does happen, but it's just about really getting into things, not just trying the generic things, but going a little bit more in depth and then seeing, does it suit you, does it not suit you, which one suits you more.
Yeah, there always seems to be quite a big pressure to get it right first time. If you think about anything in life, you just that's so unrealistic for anything.
Yeah, it is, and life's so long, like you can change your mind so many times.
Yeah, it's never too late, right? So you never know until you try. So good advice. Okay, Amal, is there anything that you've learned outside of tech industry, that you didn't expect that would help you in your tech career, but you're really glad that you know it for what you do now?
I feel like my answer is going to be a little bit niche, just because of my background. So I came from math, but I know that anyone who does A-level, I think it's called A-level math here still, or go to college here, you should be doing logic programming. In physics, or in math, actually, but so both of them, hopefully, that actually helps a lot with sometimes not as much as you would think, but yeah, it does help a little bit. Honestly, it's mostly how my brain works is the main answer, though. The problem solving bit of it is I can't understate enough. I've had this discussion with other similar people who come from STEM backgrounds, and I've spoken to them, and we've come to the same the understanding is that, look, it's just how you work. It's about problem solving. So you do experimentation in our case, TDD, which is a way where we of writing software where we write tests first, then we write the software, and then if the test passed, then we did it right. If the test didn't pass, that comes back to the scientific method, really. So yeah, it's mostly how we think. That was the surprising one.
Thank you. So Tam, the next one has got your name written all over it. So how likely are employers to look at career change candidates into tech from engineering backgrounds if they have no experience apart from transferable skills?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate that first time that you mentioned that I just happened to know somebody in the industry. But I have one of those stories as well where I was made redundant at one point and had to find a new way into the industry again, and still didn't really have a lot of experience, and was given yet another chance. And I had to answer the same kind of questions of, well, you're an engineer, what can you bring, and things like that. So it has happened on more than one occasion that I've been given a chance over here. And I think, again, it is that there is a need for experience in general, not just a specific piece of experience. And yeah, it is valued over here.
Great. Lisa, I think you've touched on this a little bit already, but we've got somebody who says, I'm considering changing careers from working in fashion design and product development for 13 years. I've been looking into project management and UX design as possible routes into tech. I have plenty of transferable skills, but not actual experience. So I know somebody else sort of mentioned about the 1 year experience thing, but this is very specific in these sort of transferable skills.
So I studied a little bit of like, I'm nowhere near as much experience in fashion, but I studied a little bit of fashion in college, and I can imagine, I find it hard to believe that there's no transferable experience there. I think there is, and I think it's just about understanding what experience there is, and like Tam was saying, and understanding where that can bring value in the tech industry. I have no doubt that there will be experiences there, in fashion industry, in product development. I know students that have come from the product design industry who've moved into user research, and I think if that that is possible, then I fully believe that whoever posted out that question definitely has some experience and some skills that the tech industry would be glad to get. It's just about crafting it in a way that the hiring people can understand, for sure.
Brilliant, thank you. So I'll open this to anyone who wants to answer. So what's and maybe we can have a few answers. What's the biggest challenge you faced when starting your career? It's kind of a big one.
I think knowing that not all the experience has to come from you as well. So especially if you are coming in from another role, knowing very quickly where to get the right information from, and not being afraid to ask those questions as well, because they're perfectly reasonable questions. If you say, I don't know this, people would much rather you did that than pretended you knew and then made a mess and they come along to clean that stuff up. So yeah, if you just ask quite honestly, just where can I find out about that? Asking people questions all of the time, and using those people. It's a very, very collaborative industry. I don't think that's always very obvious from the outside. You think of software being quite insular and sitting at a screen and doing things, but it's extremely collaborative. It requires good conversation. So not being afraid to start that will definitely get you started.
Piggyback on what Tam just said about collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
One of the techniques that we really like to push at Opencast is pair programming. So that's where two people typing and, you know, trying to solve, two software developers or QA, test engineer, trying to solve the problem at the same time. So we do work very closely together. Collaboration is as close as sometimes sharing a keyboard. In this digital age, we do it virtually, but yes, I agree with that.
Brilliant, thank you. So this one I'm gonna throw to Lisa. Because of the nature of how you described your sort of meandering way to where you are now, how would you best advise someone to kickstart their career?
Wow. Gosh. Okay, that's that's a tricky one. Okay, so I think if you want to kind of kickstart your career, I guess that there's a few things you can interpret from what is meant by that. I think if you're looking to kickstart your career in user research, I think, you know, it's about demonstrating that passion. And I know I mentioned, you know, getting involved in meetups and things like that, but really, you know, involving yourself in the industry and understanding, you know, what it's all about. As I say, it's not about getting 5 years experience that people are looking for, you know, in an instant. You know, we know that's not possible, but you know, really kind of getting involved in the communities in user-centered design. You know, and if you do want to work in the industry, your passion will come through, and you know, you show that, and you know, you'll seek out those small opportunities or those big opportunities to you know, and they will grow, and you will gather that experience as you go, you know, and that will shine through for definite. It is difficult. It's I certainly was challenged at the beginning of my career. It started a very long time ago. It was not always a smooth journey. It had its rough patches. You know, life throws things at you, and I think if you're, it's good to have a long-term plan, but also you know, things change, and try not to worry too much about when that actually happens. And yeah, there's the good thing about user-centered design and the tech industry. I think the communities are really, as it's a, you know, a young industry, I think we've all come in from different ways. I think we're all very supportive. I do feel that the community is very supportive, and we want to help people get on and you know, and grow.
I think it's fair to say as well that particularly in the last year as well, like the world has literally become everyone's oyster. In regards to networking, you can literally join events at any time of the day across the world, where you're likely to, you know, gauge perspectives and meet new people and hear about different companies and understand more about a particular career that you might be interested in. So I think it's really tapping into that network that's free, so you don't have to give up your day job necessarily to find more about it. Whereas, you know, once over, people sort of think about, well, I have to give up my current role to then go and try and do something else. Whereas I think there's a lot of opportunity now, isn't there, to sort of engage in different industries without having to sort of make a big leap of faith all in one go.
And there's so many online courses now. There's so many great online courses. You know, as Amal said, you know, you went to a boot camp. You know, there's some really good quality, you know, courses that you can go on, and of course they're all online. So, you know, you can do them in your lunch break.
Okay, we're going to have a little poll now across our panelists. So somebody has asked, which do you see as the most important, the degree or the work experience? So we're going to do hands up. So hands up for the degree. Oh, it's a clean sweep. Hands up for the work experience. Yeah. Anyone care to give a reason why?
I studied illustration and I work in user research. You know, it was. I think, yeah, you know, it's. I think there are things that the degree will you know, studying a degree will bring you. You know, having that opportunity to, you know, to study something in depth and things. But you know, and it's a good experience if you can do it. But you know, I think, you know, work experience is something else real practical in the world working, you know, in the world with other people is different, better, more enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that, you know, having an education is invaluable. I think it's just making sure that, you know, when sometimes we take detours or feel like the decisions we make when we're 16 years old aren't quite the right ones, it's really not the end of the world. And yeah, enjoying that academic experience, not hanging your whole future on it necessarily. If you happen to choose that degree that sets you up for life with the career you want, amazing. But the amount of times that actually happens is probably pretty rare. So maybe a bit of a mixture, but predominantly the work experience stuff tends to give a bit more of a footing. Cool. Okay, another one for you, Lisa. So any recommendations or advice on how to transition from academic research to industry or user research?
Okay. Well, the good news is that I work with people who've transitioned from academic research to user research. So it does happen, it can happen. I think, again, you know, we spoke a lot about experience, and as an academic, you know, researcher, you will have specialized techniques that will bring value. You will have unique domain knowledge about, you know, maybe it's a certain audience type or a certain, you know, a certain situation, certain technologies, I don't know, but you will have that unique knowledge and that will bring value. You will probably have taught, that will bring value. We're a young industry, you know, part of our work is you know, sharing knowledge and teaching others, as long as you're prepared to adapt, because there are differences. But be prepared to adapt and understand where those differences are. And I don't think there are any significant barriers if you look at it like that.
Cool, thank you. So we've had some more questions through, so hopefully we can keep going. So, and Lisa, this one is actually for you. I think you've answered this. I think you've answered this a little bit already. So somebody was asking about, you know, your background and how that transition happened, which I think you've explained. But was there any reading or training courses specifically that you could recommend making that transition?
Yeah, gosh.
Or maybe we could share afterwards if you don't want to be put on the spot.
I think the short answer is no. I didn't. It was all learn on the job. There was nothing. But I think if I can reflect on the little, you know, the courses and the little bits and pieces and the books as well that I read, then I can put together a list for sure. But there wasn't one thing. You know, I watched a lot of TED Talks and I tried to keep myself going in that respect, and read a few. I know I've got kind of a bookcase there with various bits and pieces in that were helpful, and I can put together a list, yeah, and post it. We can post it somewhere.
Wonderful. Okay, so Tam, do you think you need to be techie to be the best Scrum Master? How do you measure success?
Definitely not to be the best Scrum Master, I would say. And this goes for any kind of operational role, not just Scrum Masters, but whether like business analysts and service managers, product owners, and things like that. The amount of techie to non-techie, it's not even specific to like the teams and the roles you're in. It is kind of, it's down to you and where you want to fit. I'm less techie in the team I'm in right now than the one that I was in previously, and that was because I was sitting there looking around and I went, they need some help here, and it's going to require me to actually learn a little bit. It's going to require me to pick up some tools that I'm not always comfortable using, but I'm going to have to get used to them and things like that. And that definitely helped those guys out. But yeah, I've met Scrum Masters across the whole spectrum, from super techie, really want to know everything, to the point that they also have to like rein themselves back and not offer recommendations to developers and things like that. Mal nodding his head. But I've also seen the other side of like the Dr. House style ones who don't even want to see the patient. They just want to know the symptoms and deal with it that way. And hopefully I'm somewhere in the middle there. But yeah, it can come across either way. In terms of success and how to measure that as a Scrum Master, that's a lot easier in an office, I would say. That's something I've had to learn over the past year. Is it's a bit fluffy, but like as a Scrum Master, you can kind of tell when you're doing your job, because the team are going home on time. You can see them talking to each other. Again, you see them taking breaks, being more comfortable, being more talkative. There's a genuine like rumble in a team when they're actually kind of getting on with things and enjoying it. That's a lot more difficult to tell when you're working online, and it has been having to shoehorn myself into meetings that I'm not necessarily needed in and things like that, just to see if people are still communicating in the same ways and things like that. And again, making sure people are going home on time is a little more difficult when everyone can go home and start at any time they want, from the virtues of working from home. So finding ways to, again, just monitor everyone in a way that, you know that they're not overreaching, overextending themselves in lockdown and things has been quite big. So yeah, there's different ways to do it, and I've had to adapt them for the past year.
Brilliant, thank you. So this one's really to anyone who wants to answer. So I've got someone who said, I'm currently a teacher with a background in writing and literacy, looking to make the move into content design. In the past, I've been told I can't make the transition without agile experience. How do I get past this?
I can answer that one if you want, as an agile fanatic. I think part of that is understanding why people say that. It's not true for starters, but there is some truth in there, which is that agile has become such a popular and successful part of delivery over the past 10 plus years, and a big reason for that is that it empowers the whole team. When everybody is on the same page with that stuff. What agile does is it gives everyone a framework so that they can work in a way that they don't have to know the overall business framework. You can write code without having to know how it goes from one place all the way out to the user and things like that, through working all one way. So that's why people ask for that kind of stuff. They know that it is going to be a bit of an impact to a team if someone's not got that mindset. What I would say isn't true about that is how much effort it takes to get that mindset, because it isn't much. It is just to be interested. And it's been mentioned a lot on this call already, but there's so many great events and meetup opportunities. I think the digital community has really stepped up over the past year to make sure that works really well. So there's a lot of opportunities there to speak to other people and things like that. Me personally, if I was recruiting someone, I'm always very interested in what they're doing at the moment, what their favorite books or blogs are and things like that, because that also shows a level of experience. It doesn't have to come from a workplace. If someone's going, I quite like this agile technique, and they've never done it before, I can still go, well, what do you like about it? Why are you excited about that? So don't think just because you haven't got in anger experience of agile that you're not interested in it and doing it in another way.
Okay, great, thank you. Lisa, how did you decide on your fit within UCD? So what was it specifically about user research as opposed to like a more design focused role? What was it about user research that was for you?
I was rubbish at design.
I'll do it.
Yeah. A little bit of backstory, hopefully not too boring. I went into HMRC as a UX designer. We were working on forms, intelligent forms, and that was very it was very lift and shift. It's very different from other parts of the digital delivery center. At the time, it was very much about putting fields on, and I didn't feel like I was really getting the true user experience of being a user experience designer. An opportunity came along, and there was an opportunity and I thought, well, this is going to help me get into the kind of the real world and really get into UX design. And I started out doing it, and honestly, it was a consultancy. There was UX work, there was user research work, there was more demand for the user research, and I just had more of an aptitude for the user research work than I did for, as much as I wanted to use the graphic design degree. I didn't, my skills and my experience just lent more to the user research, and I enjoyed the user research much more. And obviously, if you're good at something, if you're passionate about something, then that will come through and you will enjoy your work. And so that's how I came into it. So not the normal trajectory, but that's kind of how it came about. Not normal.
And we've had a question for the host. Thank you. How does Opencast adjust its hiring process towards people who want to join the tech industry but don't have traditional qualifications or industry experience? Well, this is something we have to keep working on, because you know, we want to try and appeal to different types of people to get into this industry for a number of different reasons. You know, in the past we have had people who have applied to us who haven't had much experience, but they've shown such interest in technology and have sort of self-taught and could demonstrate that they had the right skills. I think we had somebody who was a plasterer who came and then came as a bit of an apprentice, and they went on to work for a number of clients for us, because they just knew this, they knew what they were doing, and they'd sort of really invested in themselves to make that upskill. So it was such a huge shift from what they were doing, but we were able to sort of support them. So I think there's probably loads more that we can do to try and get more people through that route. But I suppose the biggest way we do that is if we talk to these people, if they come to us and express an interest, then we either look for ways that we can bring them in, or if we're not up to that stage yet, we can advise on you know, further things they could do to get themselves into a position where we would be able to have them as an employee. So yeah, I think it's a mixture. I think we continue to do what we do, where we don't just look at, you know, whether someone's got a degree, because as we've sort of said, that we don't really think that's the most important thing, but also just look for those creative ways of bringing people in different ways, because we know that technology is becoming, it's pretty much what we live and breathe in our entire lives now, and more people want to get into this industry, and it definitely shouldn't be closed to so many people. You know, we need to find better ways to get more people in. I'm just really conscious of time. I don't want to run too far over, so I'm just going to pick a couple from the last comments that we had. Somebody's mentioned about imposter syndrome, and this isn't something we've mentioned yet. So somebody says, dealing with imposter syndrome coming from other industries or areas. This is a common thing for a lot of people. What advice do we have for somebody feeling like that?
We're all feeling it, I think. Secretly, we're all you know, I work with people in DWP, and you know, there are people who are, you know, in different capabilities, who feel like they suffer from, you know, imposter syndrome. And I, as a user researcher, I'm also a content strategist. So you know, again, it's that idea that we have to be an expert in something, you know, that we have to have this kind of deep expertise in one thing, and I just don't think that's true. And it's taken me a long time to reconcile the fact that you know, I can learn on the job, as you know, as Tam's, you know, been adapting to, you know, the needs of his team this year, and you know, it's, yeah, we just need to get better at accepting that you know, we don't have to be super expert at what we do. I don't know if anybody else has got something more enlightening.
I don't remember who said it, but there was a nice quote of, I don't know anyone that I like that hasn't got imposter syndrome. And I think that's another thing, isn't it? You want to be careful of those people more than anything. Back on the collaborative side of things, working in a team that is super collaborative and very high performing, quite often you've got to be extremely honest with each other and stuff like that. And if you are like that with other people, they start being like that with you as well. Because that's valued in these teams, it becomes a really nice self-perpetuating thing, where, yeah, even if it is just, this person looks like they're quite stressed today, quite busy today, is there anything I can do to help you? And questions like that come out of it as well. So don't worry about it. As long as you're honest about it, you'll quickly find other people raising their hands and going, me too. So yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we are just about out of time. There was if there's any questions that we didn't fully get to answer, there's other ways that we can feed those through and look to get those answered for you. So for now, I just want to say a massive thank you to our speakers for answering all our questions. I feel like that was a very varied basis of opinion and ways into tech, and hopefully that's given some inspiration to those people who've joined us today. If you have, if anybody who's joined wants to get in touch with us with further questions, about anything in this session, whether it's in regards to potential a role that they might be interested in, if you want to ask more about getting into the industry, if you want to just have a bit of a chin wag about tech with like-minded people who like to talk about things in that space. We have our open door email address where you will get your comments straight to our service lead. So our head of development, head of DevOps, and head of user-centered design. So they're always open to, I don't want to say geeky talk, but, you know, stuff that they love. And they'll be more than happy to have a chat with anybody who wants to about all things tech. And you can also touch base with us on LinkedIn and Twitter if you want more information. But thank you to everyone who's joined, and hope you've enjoyed it. And we'll be looking to do another event probably, I think we're going to do one once a quarter. So you'll probably see more events from us coming up later in the year. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.